How's it going, YouTube? As always, I hope you're having a great week. You know, my last video was called The Real's View. And it was all about how God calls us, the church, to be salt in the world, to be something different, part of it, but different, right? The thing that makes it, the thing that draws people to God, to a relationship with Jesus Christ. But how many times the world looks at the church and doesn't see anything different, right? Their view of the church is the same as the rest of the world. So they say, why would I need to do that? What point is it, right? But God calls us to be salt. But see, when I look at that, and I look at why the church is that way, right? I say, God, why? How have we gotten here? And he's not surprised by it. I might be surprised. I might look around and say, man, how did we get to this point? You know, I mean, if you compare many times something that's real to something that's fake, and they're right next to each other, it's easy to see. Whereas sometimes when they're not right next to each other, it's kind of hard to see. And when you notice it, you're like, man, how did I ever think that was real? Right? And so here's the thing, right? I think we've redefined what the church is and what the church is to be. We've even redefined what salvation is. And so we're calling this video the redefining, right? And like I said, God ain't surprised. He knows the end from the beginning. If you read his word, you'll be astonished at the things he speaks about. And you're like, man, I never saw that being like that 20 years ago, but look how it is today. Or you look at it it was there, but man, look how much more it is today, right? And so we're going to read in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. And it says this, but know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And here's it, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And from such people turn away. For of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women, loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts, always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. You see, we read this and we think, okay, yeah, that's God and what he's talking about, how the world will be in the last days. No. You see, 1st and 2nd Timothy is a letter from Paul to Timothy about the church and how the church is supposed to operate, how the church is supposed to be, and how the church is supposed to look. It's about the church, right? And this passage here, it's about the church. You say, no, the church ain't that way. Well, think about it. Look around. Do you see men that are lovers of themselves? Lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents? Come on. Unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control. Right? Brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And like I said, here's it right at the point. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. See, this is the church. It's sad to say, but this is the church, right, in the last days. And more than that, I would say these are the last days. Look in the Bible and it talks about how people will be easily offended about everything. How they will follow everything. How they will redefine everything. You see, that's why we're calling this the redefining, because we've redefined the church and we've redefined salvation, but it didn't start in the last days. It started back in the Garden of Eden. When man said, I want to be like God. I don't want to be my role. I want to be like God. I want to redefine my role. And we sinned. We fell short. We chose sin over him. Right? How many times have we redefined something in our life? said, oh, God will forgive me this. It's fine. I can just keep doing it. That's redefining what's right. You know, when it comes to the world, they look at God, right? And they've redefined stuff, right? They say, well, why would I want God? He sends good people to hell. Well, define good. Because God defines it. He says all men have sinned and fallen short. He says that our good deeds are as filthy rags to him. He's a holy and perfect God. Our thoughts are evil. Every part of our body yearns to be evil. We don't realize. We're so blind, and our mind and our conscience is so seared to what's right and what's wrong that we don't even see the depths of our sin. You know, when God works on you, when God tells you, we need to work on this sin, and you work on it, and God gives you the power to overcome it. He doesn't stop there and say, hey, you've made it. That was the last one. He says, hey, what about this one? And you say, man, I never even realized. I never realized the depth of my sin. He has all my life, this short period of time, and I don't even think we're going to get all of it worked out. He's going to complete his work one day when I see him face to face. But in this life, I'm never going to reach that. But his grace is sufficient. He's saved me. He's given me a hope that lies in him and what he's done, right? See, our faith isn't blind faith. It's faith with proof, right? Proof in how he's worked in our lives and how he's worked in others' lives. And what he's done and what he says he is and who he proves he is. Right? See, his definition is truth. And ours is a redefinition, a redefining. So we can feel good about ourselves. How many times do you hear about people that go to church? They live how they ever want all week long. They go to church to kind of be washed and feel good about themselves. And then the minute they leave the church, they're exactly back the same way. See, the church doesn't wash you. That's a redefining of what salvation is. We've redefined salvation to be where we just say some words and we go to church sometimes, but don't have any kind of relationship with God. We've not repented. We've not turned from our sin. Nothing's changed in our life. This is the last days and how it will be and how it's been, but how it exceedingly gets worse toward the end, right? That's what we've done. We've redefined what the church is. Just a place to go get washed and then leave and be back where you were at. So you can feel good about yourself. Right? We've redefined salvation to be saying some words, but not having to accept God. As it says here, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. You look like you're right. You look like you're saved. You look like you're a Christian. Kinda, when you're at church. But the rest of the week, you live however you want. That's the redefining. And there's one answer to that. And that's Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross. Right? It's having a relationship with him. Having a relationship with him. If you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, if you have a relationship with someone, right? The last thing you want to do is continually hurt them. If you do, then that's not a very good relationship. You don't care very much for that person. You haven't chosen that person, right? It's the same with salvation. If you have a relationship with God, how can you live however you always were or however you always have all week long, go to church, sing some songs, say some things, and go home and live back to where you were at before? How can you not be changed? It's because we've redefined what salvation is. No, we're not saved by the works. But if God lives inside us, how can we not be changed? This is the God that created the universe, who holds it in the span of his hand. How can he live inside you and not be noticeable? You see, when the apostles saw what Jesus Christ did on the cross and the risen Christ, they were changed. This scaredness, this whatever they wanted to call it, their lives didn't matter to them anymore. Only following God. You see, many times they scattered. When Jesus was arrested, they scattered. They ran. But when they saw him die on the cross and rise 3 days later, they were willing to lay down their lives like that. For him, that's being changed. That's salvation. Do you have that? I hope you want it. I hope you want it, because that's the answer to the redefining. It's Jesus Christ. Going to the truth, the word, and following him. See, God ain't surprised. This is how it's going to be in the last days. And it gives me hope that he knows the end from the beginning. He's not surprised by these things. And many times it doesn't surprise me when I see it. Maybe the depth of it, but not that it's there. I hope you put your faith and trust in God. I hope you have a relationship with him. I hope you have a true salvation in him. Have a great week. I'll speak to you next time.